What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. In this reaction, we're about to look at the biggest draft bust in NFL history. Let's go ahead and jump right into it, though.
It's hard enough for NFL teams to find that one player in the draft that will shape their future. But we all know there have been some major busts in the NFL draft.
Facts.
Quite a lot, actually. But the biggest draft bust in NFL history?
Uh-oh. This should be interesting. I feel like this is going to be controversial for sure. That was crazy. Yo, that was crazy. We definitely got to look into this, though.
They have made it nearly impossible to recover for their unfortunate franchises. We have the biggest defensive player bust, the biggest bust for an offensive player that wasn't a quarterback, and, of course, a whole slew of quarterbacks that failed to live up to expectations.
Yo, why they keep putting Trey Lance?
Not to mention the one famous draft pick who actually duped the team into selecting him. This is the gridiron.
Yo, they keep putting Trey Lance, bro.
Vince Young.
Ain't no way.
Picking third overall, you're excited about the player you're going to get. And if you're the 2006 Tennessee Titans selecting Vince Young, you're beyond excited.
See,
in fact,
I don't know
the
about
feeling
this.
lasted another year because Young's first year was pretty good. Not phenomenal, but with 12 passing touchdowns, another 7 rushing touchdowns, and 13 interceptions, all with an 8-5 record for the 13 games that he started, it was enough for him to earn Offensive Rookie of the Year.
So what made him a bust?
Unfortunately, it was all downhill from there. The next year, Young threw for 9 touchdowns in 15 games, ran for another 3, and threw 17 interceptions. His play was gradually declining. He did have a good year in 2009.
Was he hurt, though?
Player of the Year, but it didn't last long. 2010 was another poor year for Young, and it was his last year with the Titans. He played for the Eagles in 2011. He played in 6 games, started 3 of them, and threw 9 interceptions with just 4 touchdowns.
Damn.
When you're throwing 3 times as many picks as games you're starting in, that's a bad sign. And it was Vince Young's last year in the NFL.
I don't really think he's a bust, though. I'll say
Vince Young
that.
had a strong start to his career. Trey Lance cannot say the same. Sure, it's still early in Trey's career. There's always a chance he can turn it around and be successful. But it won't be with the San Francisco 49ers who drafted him. As far as it pertains to the Niners,
I kind of predict him getting
was a
traded this
massive
year.
bust. The Niners have been so close to winning it all recently, losing to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl in 2019 and coming close to making it back several times since then. Their team is stacked with excellent skill position players like Deebo Samuel and George Kittle, and a stout defense all around. They just need a quarterback. In 2021, they thought Lance was the answer. The 49ers traded away 3 first-round picks to the Dolphins in order to get the 3rd pick in the 2021 draft. And with that, they took Trey Lance. Whether it be inexperience, injuries, or not the right opportunities, things just didn't pan out for Lance. In 2021, he only played in 6 games, starting in 2. In 2022, he started 2 more games, and those were the only games he played. He notched 5 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, and 3 interceptions as a Niner. Brock Purdy eventually took over. Brock Purdy, who was the last pick in the draft.
What?
The guy every team passed on multiple
What? He was the last pick in the draft?
He took Trey Lance's job. In training camp for the 2023 season, Purdy kept the job as the starter, and the new addition, Sam Darnold, took hold of second-string quarterback, meaning Trey
This dude was the round 7, number 32 pick?
Lance would be, at best, the 3rd-string QB.
Damn,
Instead,
I ain't gonna lie,
San
yeah, he's a
Francisco
bust.
traded him to Dallas. After giving up 3 first-round picks to get him, all they got in return was 1 4th-round pick.
Damn.
But at least Trey Lance didn't actually fool them into drafting him.
The hit stick on the game looks great and it feels great, but on the field on Saturdays, the hit stick is the best thing in the world.
What are they talking about?
Aaron Curry.
Who's this?
Defensive player bust would have to go to Aaron Curry.
He must be a bust because I don't know.
Seahawks took him number 4 overall in 2009. Curry was a linebacker, but Seattle wanted to get him rushing the passer a good deal too. something that was somewhat new for Curry. Whether you look at him as a pass rusher or as a straight linebacker, the numbers aren't impressive for either. In his first year, he played in 14 games. He had 2 sacks and 8 QB hits. In his second year, he played in all 16 games. He recorded 3.5 sacks and 8 QB hits. Nothing outstanding. If you try to take a look at his tackling numbers, as he was a linebacker, he was notching 54 solo tackles in his first year and 60 solo tackles in his second. Let's compare this 4th overall pick to the 26th overall pick of the 1996 draft, Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis would get over 100 solo tackles a season in his early years.
That's what I was thinking, like...
years, he averaged around 80 tackles a year. And Aaron Curry was falling short of even that.
Damn.
His play suffered.
We could not find any NFL footage of Aaron Curry. Is crazy.
To the Raiders. He didn't last long there either and was out of the league by 2012, only having been drafted a few years prior.
I don't even know who this is. I'm going to be real.
Russell. Speaking of the Raiders, they had their own big bust in Jamarcus Russell back in 2007. Russell was breaking state records back in high school, and he was a college phenom. So the Oakland Raiders selected him with the #1 overall pick. Everyone expected him to be amazing in the pros. He only played in 4 games in his rookie year, starting only 1 of those games.
Was he hurt?
His second year was when he'd finally get a chance to shine. But he did not.
What was the stats?
15 games, he had a lackluster 13 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and a 5-10 record. In his third year, he was doing even worse. In fact, by their 9th game, he was playing so poorly to the tune of 2 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, taking over 30 sacks, losing 5 fumbles, completing just 46.8% of his passes, while leading the team to a dismal 2-7.
But was that really his fault, or like did he have a horrible O-line? That's a real good question to like really look into, though.
That the Raiders benched him in favor of Bruce Gradkowski. Gradkowski helped the team go 2-1 in those next 3 weeks, with upsets over the Bengals and Steelers, throwing more touchdown passes than Russell had all season. In an interview, Russell even credited that difference to the receivers making plays, not Gradkowski. The team wanted Russell to take a pay cut, but he refused. And that was essentially the end of Russell's playing days.
Wow.
Tony Mandrick.
Damn.
The 1989 NFL Draft was replete with Hall of Famers. Troy Aikman, Barry Sanders, Derek Thomas, and Deion
Woo,
were drafted
golly.
1, 3, 4, and 5, respectively. But wait, then who was drafted #2 overall?
Oh, I remember this guy.
Bust, Tony Mandrick. And no, he didn't make it to Canton, Ohio, if you were wondering.
I remember that
Sports
guy.
Illustrated famously said Mandrick was the best offensive line prospect ever. Mandrick played for
He was on like
Michigan
the
State.
magazines and stuff, right?
All-American. He was 6'6" and 330 pounds. In his combine, he had a 30-inch vertical leap, and his 40-yard dash time was 4.65.
Woo,
Faster than
man.
Emmitt Smith. Faster than Jerry Rice. So what happened to Mandrick?
Facts.
He was a freak of nature on the field, but had problems off the field. He would constantly show up late to meetings, either drunk or hungover. He
Yeah.
randomly challenged Mike Tyson to a street fight 2 weeks before the draft. He couldn't keep his
He's
life in order,
tweaking.
and his play struggled. The Packers selected him 2nd overall in 1989, but he only played for them until 1991. He ended up doing a stint in rehab, returned in 1996 to play for the Colts, and ended up retiring in 1998 after a lackluster career. But all these teams had made calculated choices to draft these players. None of them had been tricked by the players themselves. Johnny Manziel. The Cleveland Browns have had bust after bust year after year. But their worst bust of all was the player who convinced them to pick him. During the draft, Manziel texted Browns quarterback coach Dow Logans, "I wish you guys would come get me. Hurry up and draft me because I want to be there. I want to wreck this league together." Logan
Ain't no way that those real
and
messages.
the owner. And with that, the Browns organization decided to trade up and draft Manziel at 22nd overall. Everyone thought the Heisman winner was indeed going to wreck the league, including Skip Bayless, who said
I did too, I'm gonna be
should have
real.
drafted him with the 1st overall pick. However, Manziel had a partying issue. Issues with drinking and drugs, problems with the police. He couldn't keep his life in order, and he couldn't perform on the field. Only 2 years he played for the Cleveland Browns. 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions was all he had to show for it. He did not wreck the league. He did wreck the Browns organization for a couple of years,
God.
making them trade up to get him, and they got no return on that investment. Some of these draft busts are rough. Teams are trying to fill holes in their rosters, and they can miss big. The worst of all is when they
it sucks how that
back
played out.
multiple years just by making that one wrong decision.
Hey, man. You know that there's always going to be busts every single year. The NFL draft is tonight, so it'll really be interesting to see who's going to end up being a bust, who's going to be a sleeper that's going to end up like going crazy. I got a couple guys that I used to play football with personally that will be getting drafted this year, so it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. I hope y'all stay tuned. We definitely going to react to some of these draft picks that, that ends up coming out. We're going to talk about some of them once it do come about. But until then, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. And I'll catch y'all boys later. No cap.